Some houses don't stay empty. The people leave, the doors get boarded up, the town forgets, but something stays behind, waiting. Tonight, 3 true stories, sent in by people who walked into a place they should have left alone. Listen carefully, because every one of them barely made it out. I've kept this one quiet for years. It happened back in high school. I'm in my 30s now. I'm leaving out the real names, just in case there's still trouble to be had. Where I grew up, there was an old military base. Abandoned. Cold War era, World War II before that. At its peak, more than 200 families lived there. A whole little village, behind a fence. They shut it down in the early 80s, and then they just left it for 30 years, until they finally tore it down. Every kid in my town knew about that village. The stories, God, the stories. Cults meeting in the dark, secret experiments underground, things buried that were never supposed to come up. I remember my older brother coming into my room one night. My friends were over. He looked us dead in the eye and told us he'd been there. We didn't believe him, but he kept going. He talked about the church, a hidden door in the floor right beside the altar, and below it, a basement. He said you could hear moaning down there, screaming. By the time he finished, every one of us was scared stiff. For years after that, my friends and I made a promise. The day we could drive, we'd go find it. 2 things stopped us. 1, we didn't actually know where it was. We knew the area, near the airport, but that whole stretch is fenced off, no trespassing. The other thing, it was still technically a military base. We had no idea what happened to people who got caught. Senior year, a cool spring night. My friend Alex shows up and tells us he knows the way in. I laughed at him. I was so sure he was lying that I dared him. Let's go, right now. I figured we'd drive around, find nothing, and go home. So just before midnight, we drove out. Alex wasn't sure of anything. Every few feet, pull over, this is it. It never was. Then we found it. An overgrown road, a rotting no trespassing sign, half swallowed by the trees. It was my car. I got nervous, but Alex and Nick weren't backing down. We'd waited our whole lives for this, so I killed the headlights and let the car roll down the dirt path in the dark. We came to a gate, one of those barrier arms, nobody manning it, of course. I got out and lifted it by hand, and that's when it got strange. Furniture all along the road, beds, dressers, tables, just dumped, like everyone left in a hurry and never came back. One more gate. Alex lifted that one. And then we were inside the village. I can't describe the feeling. After all those years, we were finally standing in it. It looked wrong. A normal little neighborhood, rotting from the inside out. I parked in front of the church. We got out. Quiet. Careful. First thing I noticed, no cameras. Anywhere. That actually made me feel better. Maybe nobody would ever know we were here. We went into the church. Graffiti on every wall. I looked for my brother's secret door by the altar. There was no door. Of course there wasn't. Then we went into the houses, and those were worse. Real homes, kitchens, bedrooms, just abandoned. Some were wrecked, like a storm tore through them. But the ones still standing, still intact, Those were the ones that made my skin crawl. Our friend Scott was losing it the whole time, kept saying someone was here, someone was watching. We told him it was his imagination. Scott was always scared of something. We were inside one of the houses when we all stopped at once. A sound, not a normal house sound. Wood, creaking, like the slow weight of someone walking across a floor. I asked if everyone heard it. They all had. Alex shouted into the dark, "Is someone there?" The sound stopped. We stood there, frozen, arguing in whispers. Alex and Nick said it was just an old building settling. Scott swore we weren't alone. I'd had enough. I told them we were leaving. My car, my call. We headed for the front door, and Scott jumped back. He didn't say a word. He just pointed at the side window. 3 shadows, moving, on the wall of the house next door. The shapes of heads, 3 of them, drifting along the outside. I crept to the window and looked. I watched them slide out of view toward the back of the house we were standing in. I whispered it, "Run, to the car, now." We bolted out the front door, sprinting, and the second my car came into view, Scott screamed. Standing right next to my car was a woman, tall, in an old black dress, filthy, hanging off her. The back door of my car was open, and she had one leg inside, halfway into my back seat. When Scott screamed, she stopped. She let go of the door, and she ran, straight into the church. We didn't slow down. We threw ourselves into the car. I checked the back seat, empty, thank God, and I drove, fast, so fast I almost lost the car on the dirt and rolled it. We never figured out who she was. The easy answer is homeless people using the place for shelter. That explains the shadows, the noise, maybe. But it doesn't explain why she was climbing into my car. And it doesn't explain how we walked that whole village and saw no one until the exact moment we were leaving. Years later, I told my girlfriend the story. We looked it up. That's when I found out. They'd torn it down. And suddenly there was all this information online. Growing up, there'd been nothing. I'm just glad Scott screamed when he did. 10 seconds slower to that car, and I don't know how that night ends. When my wife and I first started dating, we were reckless. Not dangerous, just stupid. We did things I'd never do now. Things that weren't exactly legal. Her thing was ghosts. She'd find abandoned houses and drag me inside, hunting for proof. I never believed in any of it. I just liked the girl. So I went along. Out of every house we ever broke into, only one left me speechless. I couldn't explain it then. I still can't. It was a black night, heavy clouds, the kind of dark that swallows everything. She'd found this house out in the middle of nowhere, old, barely standing. I was never scared of ghosts in those places. I was scared the floor would give out and bury me. And this house was rotting. I had to kick the boarded up front door in. Inside was a living room, except half the floor was gone. Just a giant black hole down to the basement. We shined our flashlights into it. You could see the wreckage below. I told her we should leave. This place wasn't safe. Just a minute. That was always her answer. She crept around the edges, watching for holes. I stayed by the door, told her I didn't trust the floor. She laughed, called me a coward. A few minutes passed, and my curiosity won. I went went to find her. She was knee-deep in a pile of junk, looking for traces of whoever used to live there. That was her ritual. She told me to go check upstairs. I really didn't want to, but she said it. The sooner we search the whole house, the sooner we leave. So I went up. Every single step, I was sure the floor would open up and take me. First room on the right, an old bedroom. The bed was still there, still made, a folded bathrobe at the foot of it. It was like someone vanished mid-life and just left everything where it sat. Junk everywhere, clothes, broken little trinkets. In the corner, a crawl space. Sometimes we found things in those. I climbed in. It was full of baby supplies, unopened diapers, jars of baby food, but old, so old, covered in dust and cobwebs. Some of the jars had been chewed through by rats, and it smelled. God, it smelled wrong. I was about to leave when I heard it, creaking. I swept my flashlight across the crawl space, and in the far corner, another opening, a narrow passage. I swear it wasn't there a second ago. I crawled to it and looked down. It ran the whole length of the house, to the bedroom on the other side. And the creaking was coming from down there. I was too big to crawl through, so I backed out, went down the hall, toward the other bedroom. The closer I got, the louder the creaking. My heart was pounding. Not from fear, I told myself. I was bracing to get jumped by a nest of raccoons. A few feet from the doorway, the sound was unmistakable now. I stepped through the door, and I almost dropped. A woman, sitting in a rocking chair, facing the window, her back to me. I could only see the top of her head, the shape of a long skirt over her legs. Slowly, rocking, back and forth. I tried to find her face in the window's reflection. Too dark. I took one step. The floor creaked. She stopped. I started apologizing, said we didn't know anyone lived here, and before I finished, she started rocking again, like I wasn't even there. I should have run. I didn't. I took another step, asked if she was okay. She stopped rocking, and then she stood up, slowly, right in front of the chair. And I heard her, not words, a sound, a low hum. Then, all at once, she spun around to face me. I ran. I didn't see her face. It happened too fast. All I caught was old, wrinkled, wrong. I flew down the stairs, screaming that we had to go, that someone lived here. My girlfriend laughed at me. She was sure I was messing with her. I begged. Someone is upstairs, in the bedroom. She didn't listen. She wanted to see for herself. I followed her up, watched her walk to that bedroom at the end of the hall. She reached the doorway, and she said, "Oh my God." I ran to her, and then she started laughing. The room was empty, just the rocking chair. No woman. She asked if I'd been scared of a chair, laughed in my face, walked the whole room. Nothing. I swore to her I saw an old woman. She just kept laughing. Then she walked past me. "We can go," she said. We were almost to the stairs when we both heard it. Creaking. The chair. Rocking again. She froze, looked at me. No more laughing. She mouthed it. "What is that?" She took a few steps back toward the bedroom, and we heard the humming. A melody. She reached the doorway, and this time she saw it too. The rocking chair. Someone in it, humming to herself. She didn't say a word. She turned and she ran, and I was right behind her. She screamed the whole way to the car. I wanted to look back at that window to see if anyone was watching us leave. I was too afraid. I still don't know what we found that night. Maybe it really was just an old woman living in a collapsing house with a hole in the floor and the door nailed shut. But I don't believe that. Not really. We drove back years later. The house was gone, torn down, not even a foundation left. I still try to remember her face, and every time, something in my gut tells me it wasn't a living woman in that chair. When I was in middle school, my family moved. Great house, bigger than the old one, a neighborhood full of kids my age. Everything about it was perfect. Except one neighbor, the classic angry old man. We'd play football in the street, and if the ball drifted anywhere near his lawn, not even on it, just near it, he'd go off, banging on his window, screaming through the glass for us to get off his property. We never even stepped on his grass. Didn't matter. The second we came outside, he was already at that window, watching, waiting for us, like he never looked away. This went on for 6 months. Then one day, it stopped. No banging, no yelling. We didn't see him at all. I remember joking, guess he finally died. Why else would he leave us alone? A month later, my friend Joel slept over. We woke up before sunrise. Something was happening outside. Red and blue light bleeding through the window. We got up, looked out, and we watched 2 people carry a zipped-up body bag out of the house next door. We knew exactly what we were looking at. I'd seen it 100 times in movies, never in real life, and I'll never forget the guilt. We joked about him dying, and he really had. Something told me he'd been dead in there for over a month. They'd only just found him. After that, the house just stayed, abandoned, all his things still inside. His son lived in another state, never even came back. The place sat there, empty, for years, and my bedroom window looked straight into it. His house was right next door. From my bed, I could see into his rooms. Knowing a man died somewhere in there, it always gave me the chills. For years, I'd tell my friends it was haunted. Joel especially. He was always the scared one. Every time people came over, I'd tell him I saw the old man's ghost. He'd cover his ears, beg me to stop. Everyone would laugh. One night, Joel had enough. He dared me. Go inside. Go into the dead man's house. I didn't love the idea, breaking in, but Joel started in on me. Coward, and a few worse things. And honestly, I thought, who would even notice? The place had been empty for years. So, I went. I tried the front door. Locked. Tried to kick it. I weighed about 130 pounds. It didn't move, but the little window beside the door, I pushed it. It slid right open. I looked back once to make sure no one was watching, and I climbed in. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Death. I started gagging, pulled my collar over my nose. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. In the living room, beside his recliner, a bookmark still sitting in the middle of it. I went to the kitchen. That's where the smell was worst. I figured that's where he died. A sweater hung on the back of a chair, a coffee mug in front of it, dusty pots still on the stove, like he just stepped away for a second. Years ago. I went down the hall. First room on the left, the one I could see from my own bedroom. I went to the window and looked out. All my friends were there, in my window, waving at me. Joel looked stunned that I'd actually done it. And while I was waving back, a loud bang from the other side of the house. Not subtle. It sounded like a body slamming into a wall. I went dead still, straining to hear. Nothing followed. I looked back at my friends. They looked confused. They didn't know why I'd frozen. I was done. I went to the door, unlocked it, let myself out. Back in my own house, I told them everything. The smell, the bang. We talked about it, and then we moved on. Or I thought we did. That night, after everyone fell asleep, Joel woke me up. He couldn't sleep. He kept hearing noises from next door. I told him to go back to bed. His mind was playing tricks because of the story I'd told him. He went quiet, and in that silence, I heard it too. Joel sat up. That's the sound. 2 loud knocks. I jumped up and looked out my window toward the dead man's house. Too dark. I could barely see. Joel was terrified. He asked me what was standing in the doorway. The doorway of the old man's room. The room I'd been standing in hours earlier. A silhouette. The shape of a person. I told him it was a coat rack. It had to be. Then Joel lost it. No way. He swore it moved. His shouting woke the others. They all crowded the window, and they all agreed. There was someone there. I kept telling them it was impossible. A shadow. Something we couldn't explain. And then Joel screamed again. This time he didn't speak. He just pointed. The figure had moved. It was standing directly in front of the old man's window now. From the doorway to the glass. Still too dark for any detail, but you could see it clearly now. The outline of a person watching us. We all started to panic, and while we watched, it turned, and it walked back toward the doorway until the dark swallowed it whole. I watched that window for a long time after. Nothing. I told my friends it was the old man's son, finally coming home. It was the only thing I could say to calm everyone down. We watched all night. We never saw it again. About a year later, I finally met the son. He showed up with a dumpster, gutted the whole place, sold it. My dad talked to him. He said he'd had a terrible relationship with his father. It took him years to even come back. To this day, that's the most frightening thing I've ever seen with my own eyes. And I'm glad I wasn't alone. 4 of us, all looking out the same window, all seeing the exact same thing. I still don't know what was standing in that house. There's probably a rational explanation. I just have no idea what it is.